So we get back for game 7. You know, Bron he wasn't doing enough for me. You know what I'm saying? So halftime comes, and we go into the locker room. It's like, no, we ain't doing no film. I said, Bron, you got to be better, bro. He's like, what you mean? I got this. I said, I don't care about no stats. You got to be. He said, what you want me to do, T-Lou? Guard Draymond, be aggressive, shoot the ball, stop turning the ball over. Anything else? I said, man, we need you to be better if you want to win. It's on you. He's like, so I stormed off. I go in the locker room, slam the door, boom. D-John, man, your boy tripping, man. He's like, D-John, like, who? Like, man, T-Lou, he talking about I ain't doing this and doing that. Boom, we storm out of the locker room, and the second half dominated the whole game. And so
the Platinum CFL member Nick Wright, someone who has been capping for LeBron James for a very long time. I came across a clip of him and he has some interesting things to say. So, we all know flopping has been a big topic as of lately, especially with SGA getting closer to potentially winning his second title. I honestly am going for Weemy. I really hope the San Antonio Spurs pull this off somehow. But anyway, yeah, with SGA and the amount of flopping that he does, it has become a very big topic. So, I came across this clip of Nick Wright, a longtime capper for LeBron James, giving his take on the flopping issue. So, without further ado, my people, let's check out this clip and we will be right back. And what I said on TV yesterday was Adam Silver is fighting the wrong war. We have two major epidemics in the NBA going on simultaneously, and they both have to deal with a lack of competitiveness in my opinion. Not wanting to hard-nose compete and instead being like, you know what, why work harder, work smarter. You know, the quicker path to build, there's one way to build a championship contender. The quicker path though is luck into the number 1 pick. So why don't we raise our chance of that luck by tanking? And Adam Silver, sick of the tanking, revamping the entire lottery and also reportedly giving himself massive sweeping powers to strip a team of draft picks, to find a team millions of dollars if you're tanking. 'Cause it's bad for the competitive integrity of the game. But here's the reason that I believe that is not as big of a problem as the flopping. 'Cause for a lot of people, 90% of what they care about in the NBA occurs once the playoffs start. And you know when tanking fixes itself? Once the playoffs start. No tanking in the playoffs. So, all this attention is there, but for the most important part of the season, it doesn't exist. There's no incentive for it. It doesn't matter. Flopping, on the other hand, only gets worse because the stakes are higher because it's just win in advance. Who gives a _ about style points? Find a way. And then you add the perfect storm of copycat league teams trying to find a way to overcome the Thunder, and the Thunder's best player and 2-time league MVP fairly being the poster child of just falling on the ground. Not only it's one thing to exaggerate contact, it's another thing to invent contact to act in the league pretending as if this isn't something that turns off fans while also not recognizing that the more success OKC has, the more incumbent it is going to be on other teams in the league. Can't beat them. Join them. Alright guys. We got to learn how to get these same calls too. We got to learn how to sell this contact, exaggerate this contact, or when need be, create this contact or create the impression of the contact. And Jaylen Brown had it right. Jaylen Brown said, drawing fouls is a skill. Seeing a guy's out of position, he's going to foul you. That's a skill. Can be annoying, but that's a skill that is very different than outright flopping. And so what I said on TV yesterday, and I'll say here again, Adam Silver needs to recognize this is a slippery slope that can turn into a credibility crisis like this. And unlike tanking, which there are every fix, there then is an unintended consequence. Well, if you do that, then this. You could fix flopping in an off-season by having draconian harsh penalties, similar to what they when it got way out of hand in soccer. So, there you have it, my people. You hear Nick Wright. He says Adam Silva has two major problems. Both have to do with a lack of competitiveness. Now remember, he said this because this is going to come up later, but he says both has to do with a lack of competitiveness. Number one, the team's tanking so that they can get a better draft pick, and the flopping, which he is absolutely correct. If we're talking about teams tanking, if you can remember back when Michael Jordan during his second season when he broke his foot and they were trying to keep him from playing, and then eventually he realized that, hey, maybe they're trying to tank so they can get a better draft pick. And Michael Jordan's response is said, hey, that's just a losing attitude for the front office. You play the game to win and you play to win at all times. Which I completely 100% agree with. And in terms of flopping, my people on this channel, we have talked about flopping inside and out. And at the end of the day, no matter how you try to look at it or classify it, flopping is cheating. Everybody keeps trying to talk about it in the sense of getting an edge, a competitive edge. No, flopping is cheating. Everybody tries to talk about it like it's in the same vein of selling the foul. No, selling the foul is two different things. Again, selling the foul is actually getting fouled. And then you may exaggerate the reaction to call attention to the referees. That's selling the foul. A foul that actually happened. Flopping is not getting fouled and trying to get a call anyway. And so, yes, it doesn't matter how they try to dress this topic up. Flopping is cheating. LeBron James fanboys, get that through your thick skull. Flopping is cheating. Period. If you are trying to manipulate and misguide the referees into seeing something they did not see because it did not happen, that is cheating. And so Nick Wright proceeds to say that 90% of fans simply care about the playoffs. And unfortunately in the modern NBA, that is absolutely true because the LeBron James era has ruined the game. So much so that most people can't even stand to watch the game. And I would argue most of the real fans of the game of basketball hardly watch at all. If I wasn't doing this channel, I wouldn't make an attempt to watch the games because again, it's just hard to watch between the excessive threes, between the flopping, between just lack of competitiveness, the lack of assertiveness on the court, and just the lack of integrity overall. The game is just really hard to watch. But so yeah, Nick Wright in the modern day because your king has ruined the game. Your king's era has ruined the game. This is true. A lot of people don't care until the playoffs. And it's a shame because a lot of the current so-called NBA fans, and I mean these young kids who grew up watching LeBron or grew up watching some of these other players, they never even got to love the game the way we love it because the game has never been in a state for them to love the game the same way that fans of previous generations actually love the game. So they think that they love the game when they are really actually just fans of players. This is how the game has been marketed to them. Which is why the flopping and these other things don't bother them is because they grew up on this stuff. But anyway, Nick Wright proceeds to say that hey, these things affect the credibility of the game. They affect the credibility of the league. And again, Nick Wright or Nick Wrong is actually right about this. Flopping absolutely affects the credibility of the game, of the league, and of the players. Again, you're talking about credibility, you're talking about trust. How can you trust a league that allows flopping? How can you trust a league that has allowed this to go on for so long that is just it's an infestation of a superstar players who this is just a part of their game. This is not like a one-off or you see them do it every once in a while. This is every game, several times a game from superstars on both teams it's just the way it is and the league has allowed that. So yes indeed this is a credibility issue that the league hadn't saw fit to get serious about fixing this with the players. Again this affects your credibility in a sense that you guys want to be perceived as the same kind of competitors of previous generations and you obviously are not that. The flopping proves this. The flopping is an automatic knock on your credibility when you want to try to say that you are just as much of a competitor. When LeBron James wants to say, until you stump me out, cut my head off, bury me 12 feet under, then I got a chance. So that's my confidence. You have to cut my head off, bury me 12 feet deep before I give up because that's just my confidence. When players want to pretend and say things to make themselves seem like the ultimate competitor, the flopping is direct evidence that you are not the competitor that you say you are. So once again, Nick Wrong is right about that. And so eventually he goes on to say that, hey, this is an easy fix. And this is something we've talked about on this channel many times. He said this is an easy fix. Harsh penalties. Harsh penalties. I've been saying on this channel for at least a couple of years now that you don't change the attitude of a spoiled brat by continuing to give him the things that he wants. No, at some point they have to be cut off. At some point they have to face harsh consequences in order to change the attitude or the behavior. And this is the same Nick Wright again or Nick Wrong is absolutely right about this. Harsh penalties for flopping. And again, I've always said, not only should there be harsh penalties, but you have to be willing to continuously escalate the penalties until the problem is fixed. I can't remember what the penalty was supposed to be because again, they never really gave out that fine except a few times, but it might have been $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, but started at $50,000. Give it a couple of months. If it doesn't work, double it to $100,000. Start suspending people for games. Keep escalating those consequences until players get the message and they will get the message. He ain't lying. And the fact that the NBA has not done anything like this, the fact that Adam Silver hasn't done anything like this can only make one think that maybe you want flopping a part of this game for some reason. I can't imagine when so many people complain about it why they would want this flopping to be allowed. But yeah, it's an easy fix. A matter of fact, all of the things in the NBA that fans complain about, it's an easy fix. The All-Star game, it's an easy fix, people. You simply penalize the players for not playing hard. What do y'all want them to do? So when I see people talking about it, it's like play harder and it's just like why including and up to just getting, like I said, get rid of the All-Star game, and along with that get rid of the ability to be labeled an All-Star. That means you can't have All-Star on your resume no longer all, and players are going to complain and say, hey man, we should still be labeled all. Hey, too bad. You made your bed, now lay in it. But all the things that are complained about in the NBA, it's an easy fix. You just simply keep escalating the penalties until they get the picture, and they will get the picture cause they are going to want to make that money. MHM. That's right. And so the last thing I want to talk about, obviously LeBron James fanboys, is the typical hypocrisy of the 4 and 6 kingdom. The typical hypocrisy of people who cap for LeBron James and then call out things about other players but simply ignore it about LeBron James. Nick Rome, the fact that you can fix your mouth to do a segment on flopping and never once mention the name of the duck, you should be ashamed of yourself to never once mention the name of the face of the league who made this stuff. Okay, the face of the league who made not competing. Okay. The face of the league, Nick Wright, that you have spent has built your career on capping for the duck. So, you know that if you are going to talk about flopping, you should talk about the star that has flopping compilations on YouTube. But no, Nick Ron along with the rest of the 4 and 6 kingdom members, they can talk about flopping and only talk about SGA. I did my first video about SGA and flopping cause like I said, I've never really paid close enough attention and watched Shai Gilders consistently enough to actually notice how much he's flops until I saw the video from Basketball Time Machine and he showed how many flops he had just I think it was in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, Game 2 against San Antonio. And when I saw Basketball Tire Machine I was like, oh, okay. So this guy is truly he's a flopper. And with Shai Gilders being a flopper, trust me, he will get the appropriate amount of smoke from this channel. But while Shai Gilders is a flopper, let me tell you what, he's not so far that I have noticed. Like LeBron James, I haven't noticed that he's a compulsive liar. I haven't seen him hopping around forming super teams. I haven't seen a clip of him calling himself the GOAT. I haven't seen clips of him making excuses yet. Now, if people want to post that in the comments and show me that he's all these things, then okay. But so far it's the flopping. And like I said, he'll get the appropriate amount of smoke from this channel for the flopping. But it is just amazing that people like Nick Wright, Shannon Sharp, and Colin Cowherd, and just anybody you can name can call out stuff. They can call out things about Luka. They can call out Luka for flopping and complaining to the refs and not playing defense, but somehow the guy who made this fashionable gets left out. The guy who made not competing the way to go gets left out through super teams, through not participating in a dunk contest, through not playing hard in an all-star game. The guy who has a video of getting caught peeking from under his hand. This guy doesn't get bought up. And so Nick, right, like anybody else in the 4 and 6 kingdom, we cannot take you seriously because this is clown behavior. But anyway, we're going to hold up here, my people. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What did you think of Nick Wright's take on flopping? Do you agree? Cause like I said, there are some things that I definitely agree with him on. But the fact of the matter is Nick Wright, you are a hypocrite. You can call this out, but you can't see it with the duck, the deer, the leader of the 4-6 kingdom. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day and I'll see you next time. Alright.